Genocide. How do I describe it to you when, contrary to your belief, that part of my life is my favorite? One of the best things that happened to me. It's one of the happiest times of my life. Do you guys believe me or are actually wondering how horrible is the rest of this girl's life? Actually, it wasn't that bad. Actually, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom and the age of foolishness. Season of light, yet season of darkness. Charles Dickens wrote it like he was there with me, my family, my friends, and 60,000 civilians as we were being herded across the bridge by guns into a small two-street area of city which was previously destroyed by fire and bombings. We were surrounded by two armies on the nearby mountains, and we had nothing. No electricity, no food, no water, no medicine, no outside contact. Just us humans, stripped from everything, trying to survive while being bombed and shot at. Every day, there were 10 to 15 people killed or injured. But we organized, we became one, like honeybees, 60,000 people working together in unison towards one common goal, to survive. The most basic human instinct. So, we took one and only very small commercial building and we turned it into a makeshift hospital where all injured were brought and treated. We created soup kitchen where all food was brought and anyone that was hungry could go there and get a bowl of soup so they wouldn't starve. We would go down to river to get water, but quickly we realized that the army would purposely wait for us to do that so they would shoot at us with snipers and guns. So we got smarter. We created a water distribution system where only few people would go down the river and they would fill these huge, large tanks with water, and then we would bring them into the neighborhood and distribute water safely and after dark. And all this was made possible by us, individuals that were there. Anyone that was good at anything, and it turns out we're all good at something, this was your time to shine and help in your own unique way. And despite the circumstances that we were all in, all 60,000 of us had a sense of purpose, sense of community, and sense of value. We saw how valuable each of us was being able to help in their own unique way. One day, beautiful sunny afternoon, I went outside to chat with my friends. I walked up to the courtyard where they were sitting and I sat on the nearby wall. And just as I sat down, I started to choke. I couldn't understand what was happening. I couldn't breathe. I felt something sharp going through my throat, and I couldn't breathe. And I kept thinking to myself, just breathe, just breathe. As long as you breathe, you're going to be okay. So I took my head and I put it in my shirt, and I felt myself take a deep breath. And as I felt myself breathe, I thought, I'm going to be okay, but I couldn't understand what was happening. And it's almost like at that moment, your primitive brain takes over, and it doesn't let you just look up and see what's going on. No. It feeds you information little bits at a time as to not overwhelm you. So I started looking around me in these concentric circles, and I saw my legs, my arm, it was throbbing, they were in pain. I couldn't understand what was happening though. I was looking for an answer, so I looked in a bigger circle, and over here I saw my other friend. She was sitting with her daughter on her lap, with their heads tilted forward, both dead. Still couldn't understand what was happening, so I looked even a bigger circle. Right over here, I saw two more of my friends lying on the ground, also dead. Still not understanding what was really going on, I looked even a bigger circle, and over here, I saw another friend. She was walking towards it, carrying 2 canisters of water. And for a moment, I thought she was alive because she was standing there looking at me. But when I looked into her eyes for an answer, I saw there was nothing behind them. And just as I realized she was dead, the gravity pulled her to her knees and she collapsed to the ground. Still desperately looking for an answer, I looked even a bigger circle, and right across the street, I saw my younger brother. He was looking at us. I looked into his big, beautiful brown eyes that were filled with tears. And it's almost like at that moment, I got into his body, and through his eyes, I saw what was happening to me. I saw that the bomb has exploded less than 10 feet from us, killing all 5 of my friends, and I was severely injured. Shortly after, a father, one of my friends who was just killed, ran over to us, picked me up, and took me to that makeshift hospital. Once we got there, they put me on a stretcher in the hallway where all injured were placed until they showed signs that they would survive and have actually earned a bed in one of the overfilled rooms. As I lay there, all I kept saying was, "Where's my daddy? I need to talk to my daddy. Please go get my daddy." See, I'm a daddy's girl, and I needed my dad to come and somehow just make this better for me, just a little bit better. Soon after, my father showed up, and the first thing out of my mouth was, "Dad, am I going to be able to run again? Am I going to be able to play soccer again?" My dad looked at me up and down. I still remember his eyes. They were squinting with crow's feet around them, filled with tears, as he mustered up enough strength and said, "You're going to be as good as new in a few weeks." And with my father's comforting words, I passed out. I was drifting in and out of consciousness, but a week later I woke up pulling some tube out of my chest that was helping me breathe. And I remember thinking once again, I'm going to be okay. But they came to me a few days later and said that infection has taken over my body, and without any medications or antibiotics, they had to amputate my leg. And so they did, without anesthesia. But that wasn't the worst of it. They came and told me that in order to fight the infection that was in my body and try to save my life, they had to cut the infected flesh off to keep it as clean as possible. This change of dressing, as they called it, lasted 2 hours, and it was done daily every morning and every evening. And without any pain medications, all I had was this trusty teddy bear that I would bite on and scream into until it was over. But despite the circumstances that I was in and all those around me in that room was called a happy room because we were always happy. We joked, we laughed, we had a good time. Even the medical staff, when they were sick and tired of treating the dead and injured, they would come to the happy room just to get some comic relief. And I lived like that for about a month or so, when a lady showed up at my bedside with an interpreter. She said she got a permission from the Army to rescue 3 injured children, and I was one of the candidates. She said if I wanted to go, I could, but I had to make a decision fast because we were leaving in 20 minutes. By this point, I was already seeing everything in yellow. I'd stopped eating for days, and I knew that if I wanted to live, I had to go. But I didn't want to leave my home. Also, by this point, my father was injured, and he was now laying on a stretcher in the hallway, fighting for his life, and my mom was already there helping both of us, so they carried me to his bed where we had a very brief family meeting that it was determined that I had to go. So, 20 minutes later, my trusty teddy bear and I found ourselves on a stretcher, leaving with this stranger, not knowing where I was going, not knowing when or if I would be back, leaving behind me everything I've loved. Eventually, I ended up in the U.S. Army hospital in Frankfurt, Germany, where I had daily surgeries. But due to the extent of my injuries, it was determined that I had to be transferred to the United States for medical treatment. And from there, I ended up in a very small town, USA, Cumberland, Maryland. There are only about 20,000 people in Cumberland, which incidentally is how many Instagram followers I have now. But a group of them decided to organize and help out this 16-year-old injured Bosnian girl. And just like my Bosnian family and friends I left behind, they too organized and came together with one purpose, but this time to help me. To help this injured little girl survive and thrive. So they too organized and pitched in. Everyone did something and contributed in their own way. President of the hospital said I could stay at the hospital for free. Orthopedic surgeon said he would do surgeries for free. So did the plastic surgeon and many other doctors and therapists who actually volunteered their time and expertise. A tax accountant said that he had an empty office building in downtown and I could stay there once I left the hospital. One family volunteered to buy my grocery, another one to take me to physical therapy, yet another one to help me learn English. Everyone contributed in their own way, and everyone was important and crucial. And once again, I had a home with my new American family. And once again, I had a sense of purpose, I had a sense of community, and a sense of value. I saw how valuable each person was, just being who they are and being able to help in their own unique way. Slowly, I recovered. I ended up having over 100 surgeries. I had to relearn how to walk again. It took me 15 minutes to learn how to run. It took me 15 years to learn how to run again. I finished high school, college, got a job. I even started my own very successful software company where my first client was a $150,000 retainer, which I got within a month. I found a perfect place to live, Tampa Bay, Florida. I live 5 minutes away from the beach, living the American dream, living the life I never even could have imagined. And when I look at my life during genocide, my injury, my painful recovery in both Bosnia and Cumberland, even though it was one of the most painful and stressful times of my life, I can't help but think of it fondly. Logically, I feel like I should be miserable about it, just thinking or talking about it, yet I feel really good about it. And feeling good and thinking fondly about genocide made me feel really guilty about my friends that were killed, my father that was injured, and all the other bad stuff that happened during the genocide. I couldn't understand why this period was so nice for me. I couldn't reconcile this in my mind. How could this horrible part of my life be one of the happiest? But then I realized what Charles Dickens was saying. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. I realized that amidst of the most horrible thing, the biggest atrocities that could happen to a human being, I also witnessed and experienced the most amazing thing that could happen to a human being. I saw our own humanity in its purest form, without modern world noise. I saw what it truly meant to be a human. And this pure humanity is our human superpower that we all possess. See, during genocide, we were stripped from everything, so we had no choice but to tap into this pure humanity, our human superpower. And we would tap into this. Tapping into this humanity is what makes us happy. It's what makes us human. And how do we do this? How do we tap into it? By having three key things I already mentioned. Our sense of purpose, our sense of community, and our sense of value. The first, our sense of purpose, is having one common goal that we can all together work towards. In Bosnia, our common goal was to survive. In Cumberland, it was for me to survive. One common goal, one purpose that connected us all. The second is our sense of community. See, we're social beings. We need to need each other. We need to work alongside each other and not in a competitive manner. There was no competition in our fight to survive. We were 60,000 and we were one. And last but not least is our sense of value. We need to feel valued for our uniqueness and who we are, embracing our differences, being able to share our skills where being you is what we need. During genocide, everyone was important. Every skill was necessary for us to survive. Just like in Cumberland, everyone helped in their own unique way and was just as important. And when we tap into these three things, we have tapped into our own humanity, pure humanity, the human power, the power that gives us the feeling of happiness no matter what the circumstance. Because happiness is not about what's happening to us at any given moment. It's not about the right job, right title, how much money or possessions we have. It's about how connected we are to our own humanity. We all have it. I've seen it in Bosnia. I've seen it in Cumberland. I see it every day. If you just let humans be humans, we can achieve amazing and unthinkable results. Now, I want you to go on a journey with me. I want you to imagine the world where we have all tapped into our own power, where we're all working together towards one common goal, one greater good, one greater purpose, where your uniqueness and our differences are celebrated, where being you is what the world needs, where we're allowed to be just who we are, humans. Imagine what our world would look like as this beautiful, powerful collection of individuals are working together in unison towards one common purpose, one greater good. We can do it. We have it within us. We just have to tap into it. And if we tap into these powers, if we realize how strong and brilliant we are and can become, then we can turn even the worst of times into the best of times. And that, I thought, was the idea worth spreading.